Command line interface overview of checkpoint firewalls. Hello everyone, in today's session we will try to interact with the checkpoint firewall or gateway from the command line interface or CLI. So we went through the web user interface of the gateway, but now we will try to interact with it from the CLI. So let me access this gateway, the headquarter gateway. So you use the command line interfaces normally for the purpose of maintenance, troubleshooting, and administration, basic administration you may use. However, for the general config, you would use the web user interface, and if it's policy related or access control or threat prevention, or maybe you're doing some specific netting or object creation, you use smart console to the security management, and then from there you do the config of the gateway. So let me also log in to this gateway from the web user interface. So the IP is 222 and the credentials. So all these configs that you can do from the web user interface, you can also do that from the CLI from here. You can also do that from here as well. So admin 123. Now when you log in, you would have this being as a host name with a greater sign. Now here, if you want to see all the available commands, you can just press tab. It will show you all the available commands that you can do from this mode. If you want to see some configuration of something, you can say show and press tab. It will show you all the available commands that are under the show command. Now these are all the things that you can show and see. So let's say show time. You can see, if you say show route all to check the routing table of the gateway, you can see the routing table of this gateway. So these are the codes and these are the routes. This is just basic general information, and these are the main routes that you have in your routing table. So if something is shown with C, it means it's directly connected to this gateway, and if something is shown as C, a route is being shown as S, in that case it means that it is administratively configured, which is statically configured. It's a static route. If you get a code of R, it means it's learned via rep as of a routing protocol. If it's shown as O or B, then it is BGP or OSPF. So that route is being learned by which routing protocol, or how has that route being learned? Is that connected to me? Has it statically been configured, or has it been learned via any of these routing protocols? And on which interface? And what's the cost value of it, and the age that it has been learned or has been configured? So if you want to clear the screen, you can say clear. So I would have to, one more thing that we spoke of many times, that you would need to have the log for the changes. So right now, whoever has logged has the key, he would be able to bring changes. If I have multiple CLI sessions to this gateway, and whoever has the log, he can bring the changes. So I right now have two sessions on this gateway. One is from the web user interface, which basically has the log, and he is able to bring the changes. But from CLI, I do not have. So if I want to bring changes from the CLI, then I would need to acquire the log. So what I would say, log database override. Now I will be able to change anything from the CLI. So you can clear the screen by saying clear. Now you can also briefly see the configuration of the interfaces, like let's say the IP address, mask, MTU, MAC address, etc., by saying cp state os -f and ifconfig. It's basically similar to show IP interface brief in Cisco devices. If you know from there, what it would show you is the interface name, IP address, mask, MTU, maximum transmission unit, the MAC address description, etc. or if you have IPv6 also configured on the interfaces. So this is the interface having this IP address, this mask, this MTO, and this MAC address. And you can also see the full configuration by saying show configuration. Configuration. It will show you all the configuration of this checkpoint gateway or firewall. So clear. So show command will show you the configuration of something. If you want to see something, a specific feature, or if you want to see the full config. However, if you want to edit something or configure something, then you would say set. So let's go ahead and configure an IP address for my ETH3 interface, which is not connected anywhere here. But if I go again in cp state os -f nif config, now here you can see that ETH3 has no IP address, no mask, nothing here. So let's go ahead and give an IP address to this interface. So I will say set interface, and it is ETH3 and IPv4 address. Let's give it 1111 with a mask of, let's say, 24. Now if I say again cp state os -if config, I will see that I have this IP address assigned to this interface now, but this interface would still not be functional because it has not been brought up or has not yet been enabled. You can also enable that from here, which we did. Let me relog in. We assign an IP address from the VIP user interface by going to the interfaces and here. So you can see the ETH3 is down still. If I acquire the lock and if I try to edit it, so it has an IP address, but it has not been enabled as of yet. How we can enable that? We need to go back here to the CLI, and what I would need to do is I would have to acquire the lock back, because if I say set interface, let's say ETH3, and if I say state is on, I would not be able, because I would need to acquire the lock. So lock database override. Now if I say enable this interface, so this command plus when you come here versus this one is doing the same thing. If you come here, so now if you come here, it has been enabled. So that's how you can enable an interface from the CLI. So let me clear the screen. Again need to acquire the lock. Clear. And if you want to configure a static route, how do you do that? Let's say I have a network behind CP site 1, which is 192.168.1.0, and on this gateway or firewall I have no clue or information how to reach this network. So what I would do is I would create a static route and point it to this IP address. So if I check my routing table again, show route all, I have no clue how to reach 192.168.1.0 network. So let's go ahead and configure static route. How do you do that? You would say set static dash route, and you would specify the network, which is 192.168.1.0/24, with the next hop being a gateway address of, send it in this case, let's say to this IP address, which is 291.33 and 100. And you can also set priority here. Let's say you may have multiple paths to reach this network. You may have another path as well here, maybe from somewhere else, and you want to prioritize one over the other, because you may have one link being stable enough and you want to prioritize that over the other. You can also do that. Let's say in this case I want to set this as 2 and the other one as of 1, and then on it. And now if you check the routing table again, you will see this 192.168 has statically or administratively being configured and is reachable via this IP address out of this interface, which is ETH1. And I also have this default route, which I guess I did it while doing the initial configuration wizard of the gateway. So if you want to configure that from the CLI, you can also do that by saying set static dash route. However, here instead of specifying the network, you would say default, next hop, gateway, and address, and then you would specify the next hop where to go, and then priority if you want to set multiple default gateways. So that's how you can do this. So clear? Now if I want to save the configuration, how do you do that? You would say save config. It will basically save the configuration that the new changes that you have brought. And if you want to remove a static route, or maybe let's say default route, how do you do that? Instead of saying on, you can say off here. You need to remove the priority and say off. It will basically remove the it's not like the Cisco where in front of the command you would say no to a command. However, here you say off at the end. So now if I check the routing table, I should not have that route. So 192.168 has 1.0 has been removed. So that's how you can remove it. If you want to configure any routing protocol, like let's say in this case RIP, BGP, or maybe OSPF, then you would say set RIP and tab to see all the available commands under it. And let's say I want to enable the RIP on this interface, let's say ETH 0. How do you do that? You would say interface, and then you specify the interface which is let's say ETH 0, and then on it. And you have other, if you say press tab, you would see all the available commands, like let's say authentication type, metric, on it, off it, send updates, or maybe send version 1, version 2, or maybe virtual address. You can do all that from the web UI, and also from the CLI you can also do that. And similarly, you can also say set OSPF, and then you would be able to see all the available commands that are under OSPF. You can easily say interface, and then you need to define, let's say ETH 0 in this case, and then you would have to put it in an area, or maybe let's say in this case area 0, the backbone area, sorry, backbone 0 sorry. So you can put it in the area 0. That's how you can configure RIP and BGP and OSPF. If you want to see which policy package is installed on this gateway, how do you do that? You would say fwstat. It will show you the policy package name, which is standard, and this is the date when it has been installed on. If you want to unload this, if you want to say do not apply this policy package that I have received, in this case it has been sent by the security management, this management PMS server. So if you want to unload that, how do you do that? You would say fw unload local. So it would basically remove the policy package. And if you want to fetch it from some other, maybe in this case you want to remove the policy package that you received from this management server, and you have another one here somewhere, and you want to fetch or get that policy package from that security management device, then you would say fetch, and then you would need to define the IP address of it. Let's say in this case 111. Right now it would not be able to reach it, but if it were reachable, it would get the policy package from that other security management device. If you want to check the operating system details, the Gaia OS, you can say cpstat OS. It would show you the version and the serial number, etc. details. If you're using any physical appliance, it will show you that serial details. But here in my case, I'm using a VM version. Clear? And if you want to check the actual essential processes that are actually running, how do you do that? You would say cpwd underscore admin and list. So these are the necessary processes, let's say for Firewall blade, and the state of all needs to be E for the device to actually function. So you can use this command. You can also use cpview for detailed information of the device. Let me increase the size of this. So here under the overview, you can see my CPU utilization. I have two CPUs right now, and this one has this amount being used, the other one has this, and physical memory that I have, and the partition details here. You can also use mouse to go here between the tabs. You can also use the arrow keys, the left and right arrows, you can from the keyboard. So here in the system info, I can get the detail of the Gaia OS 64 I'm using, and this is the uptime, this is the version, the build details. And on the network, I can in real time see the inbound and outbound traffic, the number of TCP and other connection details I can get here. The CPU further details I can get here. Software blades, which blades are activated right now, none has been activated, so they are showing me as disabled. And you can check the detail advanced, sorry, here details. So the CPU view would in real time give you detailed information on the gateway. And how do you get out of it? You press Control C for character return to get back to the main CLI. You can also take backup from the CLI by saying add backup and local. So it will basically take the backup of the gateway. And if you want to see the status, so I guess I took one backup. So how do you check it? You'd say show backup status. It will show you the complete path of the backup, where it is basically stored in the gateway itself. And if you want to briefly see the path, you'd say show backups. It will show you where these backups are basically being stored. So to check the path of your backups, you will need to go to the expert mode. So how do you go there? You would say expert. It will ask you for the password. So I already have given a password. If you haven't given a password, you would say set expert dash password, and then you assign a password. Let's say admin123. My current is admin123, and I'm reassigning admin123, and I would say expert and admin123. So right now I'm at the Gaia OS, which is using the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Now here all the Linux commands would work, like let's say ls. So let me go to the root and ls. These are all the directories under the root directory, and all the Linux commands would work here. Let's say ifconfig, you would say, to check the interface configurations, IP, etc. details. So the path for the backups is, let's say, cd, and it's under var, I guess, log, and it was, I guess, under cp backups. Yeah, this one, cp backup, this one. So it's under cp backup, and I guess it's under backups again. There is another directory under this backup, sorry. And so this is the backup that I took, and now you can use SCP to take this backup to your local desktop, or maybe SSH or any other protocol. If sometimes you find out that the processes or some of your daemons has not been started it, by finding out that they are not showing as E, then what you can do is you can start them by saying cp start, or maybe you can stop each one, specific one, or you can say to start all, you would say cp start. It would actually start all the services or daemons for you, the VPN, the firewall, etc. So it's we're restarting, I guess. They were started already, but it's, I guess, restarting it. And if I come to my policy management server, this one, and here I can check the application or the application interface, whether it has been started on the security management device by saying IP API sorry status. So right now you can see my API here is stopped. It is stopped, but if you wanted to start it, you'd say API start. It will take some time. Then you would be able to smart console to the management server, security management device. So if all the CPM firewall module and the API is not started, they are not showing us started in the API status command, you would not be able to smart console to the device. So normally if you restart the device or you start it, you boot it, these services would automatically get started. But if in case sometimes you find out that it is stopped, then you would manually need to start and stop it or restart it. We also do have cpconfig, which gives you a couple of options here for license and contracts to add or remove them for the gateway itself, SNMP extension, or maybe certificate details or random pools. Or on the fifth option, you can reset your SIG key. Then the security management device would be able to add the gateway on the new SIG one-time password. You can enable or disable the cluster feature here. You can check the cluster video for this. You can enable or disable the secure XL and core XL. So secure XL is basically the acceleration of the traffic from an interface to interface, which reduces the burden from the kernel to the virtualized software. And core XL is basically a technology that makes use of multiple processor cores. And last one we have is automatic start of the checkpoint products, which normally at boot you can define which products should be started while booting, while the gateway is booted. So that's it for the CLI or command line interface of the checkpoint firewall or gateways. And thank you.